Hello friends, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to Marigold Manor, and happy spring! I am so excited that spring is finally here. Obviously you guys know that because I've been saying it on all of my different platforms for the last like 2 weeks. But truly, I have really come to love and respect spring as a season. I did not really respect what spring had to offer as a child or even a young adult, but now I feel like I get it. Like, it's all about just newness and rebirth and growth, and I'm here for the spring vibes. I really am. So today's video is going to be a celebration of spring. Spring recipes, spring hobbies, spring activities. I just have so many fun things lined up for today. The first thing that I want to do is make that delicious lemon bar recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction that I talked about in my last video. When I made them for the spring garden party and spring potluck, I was not sure how they were going to turn out, so that's kind of why I didn't film it. But now that I know that they are honestly the most delicious lemon bars you'll ever have, I feel confident sharing the recipe with you guys and showing you guys how I kind of zhuzhed it a little bit and made it a little bit springier and more floral. Lemon bars were so good, they absolutely disappeared at the party, and so I'm so excited to make them today and to show you guys how I made them. So we're gonna do that. I also am going to show you guys how I made my bow garland, which I don't know if you can see right now, but it's hanging over my kitchen sink. I saw a TikTok about this, like, I don't know, a month ago. As soon as I saw the TikTok, I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna make that for spring. So a few weeks ago, I went over to Hobby Lobby and I picked up some of the best spring fabrics that I could find, and we made a super cute bow garland. So I wanna show you guys how I made that. It's really giving Love Shack fancy, and you can easily do it by getting some fabric from your local Joann's, which is unfortunately going out of business, or Hobby Lobby, or wherever else you can buy fabrics, and just picking like the floral, botanical, pretty bright pastel-y ones and making a really cute spring garland either for over your fireplace or over your kitchen sink, whatever makes you feel like the cottagecore queen that you are. Okay, so first up, let's make these lemon bars. I'm so excited. I can taste them. I'm so excited. Let's head into the kitchen and make these delicious lemon bars. Okay, you guys, let's make these delicious lemon bars. So you start out by melting a cup of butter. I don't have a microwave, but if you had a microwave, you could just do this in the microwave. And then you're gonna pour it into a big bowl and mix with sugar and flour. Now, this is important. You want to spoon the flour into the measuring cup instead of dipping the measuring cup into your bag of flour. I always thought this was a stupid tip. I didn't think it made a difference, but it does. Not always, but in some instances it does, and this is one of those instances. So make sure that you spoon the flour into your measuring cup instead of dipping your measuring cup into the flour. I know it seems silly, but it is important in this recipe. There was also vanilla extract and salt in this as well. The recipe will be linked down below. It's also on my blog, so that'll be really easy for you guys to find it. You're going to pour it into your baking dish. Now, my baking dish was 9.5 by 13.5. The recipe calls for a 9 by 13 baking dish, but this is all that I had, so I made it work. And honestly, I don't think that you can really tell a difference by that little half an inch. If your baking dish is a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, I don't think it's the end of the world. You're going to pat down your crust. So this is your shortbread crust. You're going to pat it down in your baking dish and then bake it, I think, for about 25 minutes. And then while that's baking, you want to get to work on your filling. This is the good stuff. So you're going to sift together some flour along with sugar. And the sifting, I think, is really, really important. And then you're going to crack in, I believe it was 6 eggs. I can double check on the recipe. You're going to crack in 6 eggs and just whisk that all together. Once that is whisked, you're going to add in your lemon juice. A little tip is that if you actually roll your lemons really hard on the table before you cut them in half, it makes all the juice come out a lot easier. I don't know why that is. It just kind of loosens it up and softens it up so that you can squeeze the juice out a lot easier. So I always do that before squeezing my lemons. Now, as I've mentioned, this recipe I think called for 4 lemons. I think I used 5 or 4.5 because I really like my lemon bars to have that extra tangy, lemony taste. And you want to make sure you scoop out all that lemony goodness, and it's just decadent. It really is. Then you're going to throw that in the oven, and at this point you can pour yourself a cup of tea and watch Bridgerton, because Bridgerton feels like a quintessential spring show. It's got the spring colors, spring vibes. We love it. Now, I didn't show this part, but you actually want to allow your lemon bars to cool for 2 hours at room temperature first, and then you're going to put them in the fridge for another, I don't know, several hours. And then once they're fully chilled, you can take them out. As you can see, I have on a different sweater because this was a different day. It was the following day. So you take them out, and then you can put on your powdered sugar and your flour sprinkles. These flour sprinkles are by Loria Stern, and I got them at a local garden boutique. And I just think that it adds such a fun and festive, springy feel. And of course, my husband was the first one to take a bite. Okay, so for the bow garland, I got all of my fabric from Hobby Lobby. I don't frequent Hobby Lobby, but like I said, Joann's is out of business, so it was really my only option for affordable fabrics. And I really liked the options that they had. I chose ones that felt very springy, very fun and girly, and very Love Shack fancy, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I got 1 yard of each bit of fabric, and that was even a little bit too much because I only ended up measuring about 6 inches for each chunk, I guess, that I used to make the bows. And then to make the bows, I basically used my hand and tied a bow around my hand as if I was tying a shoelace or any other kind of bow. It was kind of difficult in the beginning because the video that I watched didn't have a tutorial, so I kind of had to figure it out on my own, but once I did it a few times and got into a rhythm, it got really, really easy. And then once I was done making all of my bows, I lined them all up and used my hot glue gun to attach them to each other. So I added the hot glue at the top and bottom of each of the bows and then just connected them to each other and let them dry. One thing I wish I had done differently was to actually think about like the arrangement. I just kind of glued them together and wasn't really thinking about like what made sense. It still came out cute, but I wish I would have put a little bit more thought into like what colors I wanted next to each other, but I still like how it turned out. I also would have used fabric scissors because the regular scissors made the fabric kind of a little loose, and so it ended up looking a little bit messy, but I'm happy with how it turned out and I really like it. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys a quick little garden tour in this video because I feel like spring is very gardeny. There's lots of growth, there's lots of green. So I want to show you guys what we have growing, what's doing well, what's not doing so well, and what we are hoping to see in a few months start to bloom. So starting with our first 2 beds, so this one and that one, we have ranunculus. As I said in one of my last videos, ranunculus are my favorite flower, and so I'm really excited that we're growing them this year. We do have some buds coming in, which is very, very exciting. If we can get it to focus. There we go. Yeah, we've got some buds coming in, and as you can see, they're doing pretty well. Unfortunately, The drip system that we installed is a little bit faulty, and so a lot of the water kind of pools over here, and everything over here gets really well watered, but then the further away you get, as you can see, the smaller the growth is. And so we're trying to figure out how to improve the watering system, because it's very apparent that it's all kind of settling over there, and so that side looks really great. It's really lush, it's really big and, you know, puffy, and then over here things are looking a little bit more sparse, a little bit weaker, and that's just not what we want. So farming is a constant figuring out of like what's going wrong and how to fix it. So as you can see, this bed, we have a similar problem where all of the water went to our sweet peas, which are doing great and they're beautiful, and we have some really delicious snap peas that we're going to use in our dinner probably pretty soon here, but everything else lacks water and didn't get enough water, and so it's looking very sparse and very kind of flimsy and weak if you compare that to those over there. So that's very unfortunate. However, they are still budding. Like, I don't know, so I can get it to focus. Yeah, I don't know how, but they are still budding. And so we'll see how they turn out. I imagine they're just going to be pretty weak, maybe not super strong stems. This is our first year doing ranunculus, so, you know, you live and you learn, but at least we'll have some from over there that'll be really pretty. As I said, this is our sweet pea insanity. Look at this. It's completely like falling over. My husband planted these and he had no idea what he was doing. He literally just threw some seeds down and then this is what happened. But I'm still super grateful because, like I said, we have all of these gorgeous snap peas that we can cook. And I love cooking with food that we grow. So that's exciting. It's just a little bit out of control. Just a little out of control, but you know, it's been kind of fun and funny to watch it just kind of grow out, you know, just grow wild and out of control. So this is our zinnia bed, and unfortunately the zinnias somehow are like not thriving, which is so weird because zinnias are typically really easy to grow. They're like my easiest flower. But this year, for some reason, I don't know if we've overwatered, I don't know if the soil doesn't have enough nitrogen, but as you can see, the leaves are quite yellow. And that's not what you want. You want leaves that look like this, that are like really, you know, really green. And so I'm not really sure what is going on. I don't know what's going on. Zinnias are like always my easiest flower. I just throw them down and they, you know, they pop right up. But this year, they're super yellow, all of them. And so I added some nitrogen and water to the soil just to try and give it a little bit of life. And so we'll see what happens. I'm just like, really, zinnias? You're the one flower I can count on. And now I have nothing. If I don't have you, I have nothing, zinnia. So get it together. Oh Lord. Coming back here, we have our nigella, which has germinated quite beautifully. As you can see, they're growing quite well. I'm gonna have to thin them out. I've been coming around and thinning them out because I need to make space for them to grow, but I kind of just threw them down because they're so sensitive and like they're such tiny seeds that I wanted to make sure that they germinated. So I threw a bunch down and I've been going through and thinning them out and just like making sure that they have enough space to grow. But yeah, these are doing well with the watering system. I don't know if it's because it's a smaller bed, but for some reason they're doing a lot better with the watering system than some of our other beds. So still figuring stuff out as always, but I'm happy to see that they are at least thriving. They're a healthy color. They're growing well. So yeah, I'm happy about this, and we'll just have to see how these go, but I think they're doing well. So ignoring that bucket, and ignoring the birds. I'm so sorry. Ignoring that bucket and ignoring the birds, these are our 4 main beds. I call this section A because this is where a lot of the growth happens. This is where we have the most amount of like real estate for growing. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, and then this last 4th bed back here, which is where the nigella is. There are the zinnias. There are the ranunculus, the sweet peas, and the more ranunculus. So this is section A. Now we're moving on to section B. I actually have a family friend coming to pull up all my weeds and get rid of all this stuff later today in like an hour or so. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4 beds over here. I think these beds are somewhere between 6 and 8 feet long that my husband built. And then this one I think is like 4 by 4, I want to say. In this one, we've got our handy dandy calendulas, which are doing really well. They're growing really beautifully. They're very strong. They have good color. I need to water them today actually, but they're doing really, really well. I'm excited to see this bed just bursting with calendulas. I'll probably have to thin this out as well if it starts getting too crowded. But for right now, they're looking pretty good. We also have calendulas here. As you can see, these ones are getting really big. The soil is doing really well this year. Last year in this bed, I grew cosmos. So I don't know, maybe the soil just is really enriched, but yeah, these are getting really big and like robust. So I'm excited about that. So this whole section is more calendulas. And then over here we have cornflower. If you watched my flower arranging video, I talked about cornflower. I grow some here as well. So I've got some here and over there, and I think all these little ones too that are coming up. So there should be quite a bit. So the way that I did it was I did half calendula, half cornflower in this bed. And then this bed is all cornflower, but they've been taking quite a while to germinate, probably because I need to do some more weeding. That's my own fault. But yeah, we have more cornflower coming here. We've got a little growth, but I can tell the difference between, like, these are weeds, for example. This is a weed, and this is my actual plant. One thing I've absolutely learned this year is to not let your weeds get out of control, because they will seriously ruin your plans. That's what's happened this year. Once I show you the tulip bed, it's so sad. The weeds just got completely out of control, and it's my own fault. But I learned my lesson. But we have some growth in here as well. So this whole bed will be covered with cornflower. I do have to do a little watering. The soil, I mean, it feels damp enough, but I think it could use a little bit more water. We've been having some hot days, so I want to make sure that everything is getting watered, staying hydrated, and happy. And then in our 4th bed, we have larkspur. I've never grown larkspur before, but look how cute she is. She's really pretty and she's really cute, and she's doing really well in this bed, which I was surprised about. I was nervous that it wasn't going to germinate, and then it did. So we've got all these little larkspur germinations going on, and so this whole bed will be filled with larkspur, which will be a great filler flower. I didn't have enough filler flower last year, and that made it really difficult to have arrangements every single weekend at the farmers market. So this year I wanted to really focus on filler flower and just make sure that I had enough, because whenever you don't have enough flowers, you can always add filler, and that is one thing that I have learned, that and the weeding situation. But yeah, it's looking good. It's looking healthy, looking happy, and they're growing all throughout this bed, so that's good. Coming over here, we have this entire patch along this like grassy area, and I have planted cosmos in here. Cosmos need to be planted kind of far apart because they get super big. And so as you can see, like, I've got a little growth right here. I've got one right here. And so they're all along this pathway. And I'm hoping that by like mid-June, they'll be pretty big, pretty robust. And by July, we'll have enough for taking to the market. But they're doing pretty good in here. I would say they could be doing a little bit better. But, oh wow, that root had a lot of life to it. Or that weed had a lot of roots to it. But yeah, we're doing okay in this one. Trying to strike that perfect balance between watering enough and not watering too much. Also, the mushroom situation this year is out of control. We have a lot of mushrooms happening. They're pretty though, they're fun to look at, but I don't want to touch them because, oh, look at the ladybug. Hi. Hello. I don't want to touch them because I don't want to, you know, I know mushrooms are like kind of touch and go. Some of them are poisonous, some of them are not. You never really know, so I just leave them alone. Okay, so we have another large bed over here, and on this half, my husband threw in a bunch of carrot seeds. So we have a bunch of carrots happening. which is exciting. We haven't had carrots before. We've had zucchini, we've had lettuce, but we've never had carrots. And then here's the thing. So this is bupleurum, and I grew bupleurum last year, and so I planted a bunch in this bed. Nothing over there germinated, and it only germinated around the carrots. So I'm curious if the bupleurum likes to be around like other things, because when I grew it last year, which I'll show you guys in a second, over here, it was around a bunch of weeds and it grew amazingly. But when I tried just growing it on its own, it really didn't like being alone. As you can see, it's like pretty sparse around here. So I don't know what that's about, but we've got bupleurum and we've got carrots, and we'll just have to see how that turns out. Okay, this is our final section. This is the most chaotic section. It is covered in weeds. Like I said, I have someone coming later today, and he's gonna pull up all of these weeds, all of these, all of this, everything down here, because it just like got way out of control, which is weird because we didn't really have that much rain, so I don't understand like what happened. But here we go. So this first bed has been just like, it has housed everything from my zucchini to my zinnias last year, and to my irises, my tulips. Like, it has housed everything. And something about this soil, I don't know what it is about this soil. My husband and I always joke that it's like, you know, like on steroids or something, because everything that we plant in here thrives and gets so big and so amazing. And I think at this point it's just because the soil is so diverse. We started out with the zucchini in 2023. We moved on to the zinnias in 2024, and then I threw in the iris bulbs and some other things. And so at this point the soil is very like diverse, and it's got a lot going on, so it's very healthy, and anything I put in here grows really well. But because there were so many weeds, a lot of my tulips got choked out, and that was really sad. But we have these gorgeous irises happening here. And we had a very beautiful parrot tulip, who's still really pretty. She's still gorge, but she's pretty much done for. And then as you can see, like all these tulips, they got very stunted in their growth because there were just so many weeds. I actually went in and I pulled up a bunch of weeds a couple days ago. It was way worse than this, but you know, you live and you learn. And then coming up here, so let's see, last year up here we had zinnias. I've grown tulips up here before. I planted, I don't know how many tulips in here, and these are the only ones that have worked out, again, because there were just so many weeds. I had to pull so many weeds a couple days ago, but yeah, it's really unfortunate. But the tulips that did survive are gorgeous. Like, they're so pretty. But I don't think I'm gonna grow tulips again because it's just such a hassle, and you don't really get a lot of bang for your buck. They're very sensitive, they're very delicate. So it was a nice experiment, but I don't think I'm gonna do it again.